Today's alexjones been at the debate destiny season.
We got a special guest joining
Jeez.
us. So
San
Francisco,
Francisco, 40% of the kids are trans or whatever?
no, I don't think that's true. So
I think it's something like that.
well,
What's
40% of
pulling this
Republican
number
discourse might be
from?
about trans people, but I don't think 40% of kids are trans.
No, there are school districts where 40% of the kids say they are not.
There was a YouGov poll where Republicans think that 40% of the population is trans. I think that's what we're thinking of right now. Are we moving to trans issues now? I thought we were talking about social media and how to like moderate social media. Then we talk about algorithms. I think there's a lot of interesting. Well, no, I think this is important, okay? Because I notice that when these panels happen, you guys never actually say anything. We move from crazy topic to crazy topic to crazy topic. I think that there's
I want people to be aware of.
No, not be aware. What do you want people to do about it? You've made them aware. Now, what are they supposed to do?
People.
This is the problem with your platform.
Let me talk. Destiny and I are dating. Here's the Destiny.
Lou, so what should be banned from social media?
Yeah.
Nothing. Let people choose what they want to see. I think we're all adults here. If something's bad, the audience and the market will speak for itself. Obviously, there's the concept of hurting children. That obviously is an exception. Obviously, there are government institutions that run international child trafficking organizations. So obviously, are you going to entrust those organizations to go after that? That's another question and conundrum that I think a lot of people are asking themselves. But other than the exception of children being hurt, I think we are adults and we could actually decipher and decide what we want to listen to and don't want to listen to. Treat us like human beings. We shouldn't be treated like babies.
That's a big box, though. Like, what can hurt children is a big,
the obvious one is, of course, being sent to Jeffrey Epstein's island or being trafficked by, many of the intelligence agencies and sent off to individuals like, Bill Gates and others who, get to do whatever they want with them. I think that's the distinction there.
You would say that you should ban child porn?
Yes.
What about, what do you...
Let's get a round of applause for that. Banning child porn. Yeah, there we go.
But the next question, though, is who's going to do the banning?
I think it should probably be human beings should be doing the banning and not an algorithm or a bot or something like that. I think these should be human beings checking this stuff out and taking a look for child porn, if that's what we're looking to ban.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, AI can help find it, but have a human layer of protection.
It always has to be a human layer of protection, especially when we're talking about something as sensitive as actual free speech.
Although the issue with putting a human in charge is that, firstly, definitions can change. So what's porn today might be normalized in 10 years. And secondly, they have the keys so that they can put their foot on the gas when they want to, take it off when they don't.
You're talking about standards, which we are lacking as a culture right now in a society, and we do need standards. That's something that I think is paramount.
Do you think that the community can function as a form of algorithm, like the human consciousness, so we don't have to rely on algorithmic code? We can let the people somehow decide together?
I don't know what that looks like.
Like a jury? I mean, we have a jury system in mind.
Like a jury?
I say we liberally, but because Bill's been running the company, not me. But yeah, there's a jury. Like if something gets up for banned, then they want to appeal the act, it'll go to a group of people to decide.
That's an interesting concept. What kind of jury? Like a grand jury that would be potentially impaneled?
It's a randomized set of active users who aren't connected to each other to try to decrease bias. But yeah, we try to keep ourselves in check with the community.
I mean, I think the issue, I don't know if we're talking like in a dream world or as it exists right now. I think the problem is once a platform grows to a certain size, having a human element of moderation is just prohibitively expensive. I think that's why for, over a decade, when it's Steam started automating programs, I think having human people involved in every single moderation action just becomes prohibitively expensive for any sufficiently large tech company, I think.
But we need the protection of human interpretation in order to secure free speech. I mean, without free speech, we really have nothing at all. It's pretty much the only thing that matters.
I mean, I think there's a lot of things that matter besides free speech. But I guess the question becomes is it a company's job to safeguard what I guess we're using in common parlance free speech because we're not really talking about the First Amendment right now. Should it even be a company's, prerogative to guard free speech, right?
I was talking pretty much about the First Amendment.
Well, the First Amendment says nothing for being banned on Twitter or YouTube, right?
Well, because of the whole private company thing.
I mean, he's a private company.
Because it's not the government thing, right?
Yeah, but you don't have to be the government to censor.
Well, no, but you're violating their free speech by demanding that they're not allowed to censor, right? That's the whole point of having freedom of speech is the government shall make no law abridging somebody's freedom of speech. If Twitter doesn't want to host your speech, Twitter has the right to do that.
Censorship goes far beyond companies, look, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it's just the government. I mean, censorship can happen at a non-governmental level.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't be the First Amendment because the First Amendment is about the government. If we want to talk about other types of censorship, we can, but the government is governed by the First Amendment, right?
Well, the term government really means mind control. Mente is Latin, I think, for mind, and govern is Latin for control. So, look at what the system of control is. And at this state, it's an algorithmic code or multitude of codes that are governing the way we behave. So you could make an argument that we would amend the Constitution to include other forms of government than the political
when
system.
Clarence Thomas has a brief that he writes to the Supreme Court about whether or not the government is mind control, I'll take a look at that, I guess.
You tell him, Ian. But I think we're learning right now with Twitter specifically that free speech is popular. And when we look at the censorship of speech, it is the government's hand in these companies. And they know that it's not profitable for them to destroy someone's speech. And this is what they've been been doing? They've been going to YouTube, they've been going to Facebook, they've been going to Alphabet and all these companies and saying, you know what, we're going to make sure that you guys are going to lose business and we're going to silence people because we don't like them. And I think right now Twitter is certainly challenging that notion that speech needs to be protected, needs to be censored, because I think they're doing better than ever. I think the platform is thriving. I enjoy the platform personally myself, speaking from a biased perspective, but I think they're really showing and leading the way, saying free speech is the answer, and it could also be profitable, and it could also be successful at the same time, allowing a perfect harmony of profit and respect of individuals to speak their mind.
I think something that I spoke about earlier, real quick, was when we have these conversations, I think it's very important that we're firmly rooted in reality. And so they have this mantra that they, I guess, repeat to themselves at midnight in the mirror with all the lights turned off. They go woke, go broke, go woke, go broke, go woke. It's not true.
It is true.
It's absolutely not true.
It is
These
true.
companies online that are
Vanguard just pulled back and said, after a decade of pursuing ESG, it's the third most powerful investment firm in the world. We are leaving ESG.
We're not
It is.
ESG. We're not talking
Yeah,
about
it
ESG.
is.
Please, guys.
This is what woke is. Environmental, social governance.
The reality
what do you
is
think social is?
The reality is that online, having aggressive moderation platforms that are trying to ban speech that a lot of you guys want to protect, that I want to protect, that I think is cool to protect, is actually a pretty profitable decision. If it wasn't, they wouldn't do it.
What about in
Can I ask you a
publishing? What about in publishing, not in social media? What about censorship in publishing?
I don't know about books.
If a private company is acting on behalf of the government in censoring speech, is that a violation of the First Amendment?
If the government was telling people to censor people, I guess
that is what happened with Twitter over the last 2 years.
We saw that. Sure. So we saw that with the Twitter files, that is absolutely not the case. If you actually read any of them, past the actual tweets, the government was not making explicit requests to censor political speech on Twitter.
That's
not happening.
patently false. It's patently false. It's patently false. Is it okay for the government to ask a company to censor?
Well, it depends on what the censorship request is for.
No, that is a yes or no question. Is it okay for the government to ask the company to censor?
It depends on what you're trying to censor. If it's somebody making a death threat, yeah, that's probably okay. If it's pictures of Hunter Biden's cock, which I know you guys are all real excited about, it's probably okay. Yeah, it depends on what the censorship request is. Yeah.
So, okay, keep going with that.
Nice.
So when a journalistic output is withheld from disclosing a story that could be detrimental to a presidential candidate, and they did not carry that same treatment to the other side, and it was not just Hunter Biden's cock, it was the fact that there was a potential that there was illegal drugs, there was underage prostitutes, there was a whole slew.
There was influence peddling.
It's his son. Who gives a shit about his son who's involved in his business dealings, who gets $50,000 a month working for Burisma in a country that we have a proxy state set up in? How is that not involved with Biden? Are you kidding me?
And there are major polls that study.
So the reality is, and I highly encourage you guys to read the Twitter files, because I don't think anybody up here actually has. If you actually read the emails where they discuss banning content, it wasn't the government told us to censor this story. The government never made a request to Twitter to censor the Hunter Biden story. That was testified to under oath multiple times by multiple people at Twitter. It is not the case that that story was censored because of the government. It was a complicated internal conversation that Twitter had amongst themselves. You can read the conversations.
So basically what you're saying is that Twitter self-censored.
Yes.
So a climate of self-censorship does come from a government level.
No.
Yes, it comes from government intimidation. Yes, it
Were
does.
there-
This is historic.
If it came from government intimidation, why did Twitter only adhere to like 37% of the requests the government actually made?
Just because they didn't go along with 100%, according to your data
come on.
here.
No, so the
That
government
doesn't-
can intimidate you 37% of the time?
I think it's a valid question.
No, it's
and
not
I
a valid
think
question. That was
yes, it is.
ridiculous.
No,
If
it's
an
not
FBI
at all.
agent is outside
And
my house,
I think that
and
we
I have
see that there was government intimidation at Twitter, and I think that you can see that in the Twitter files.
No, you
I
can
think that
where?
you saw that with
Where do you
regard
see
to. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, well, I read them, okay?
Okay.
And I'm telling you that they did not intimidate them. I have
Didn't
that conversation with the
intimidate
FBI. If the FBI was outside my house, they're going to intimidate me more than 37%
Can I
of
ask
the
you a
time.
question? Were there any emails in the Twitter files between a government actor, bureaucracy or elected official, and Twitter's executive team?
Yes.
Is that not highly problematic when the requests coming from government involved political candidates? Yes or no?
It depends on the request. If it's just
How?
if it's just-
How?
Do you think it is essential that
So
uncensored
let's
pictures
pick and
of
like
Hunter
that.
Biden's dick remain on Twitter?
When he's
Answer
the
that question.
son,
Answer that
yes.
question.
When
Okay,
he's the
that's where
son,
the conversation is right.
it's
Okay.
the New York Post. It's not like it's the porn outlet that's posting these pictures. The second oldest journalistic output in the United States broke a story.
You're obsessed.
Government emailed Twitter's executive team what happened 2 weeks out from the election. Then they delete the story of the New York Post. How is that not
the New
a
York
company
Post-
acting on behalf of the government to violate the First Amendment of a journalist? How is that not the
Because
case?
Twitter never said that they deleted that post because of the government.
And you
Okay,
believe
okay, I
them?
just want to clarify.
Why do you
Hold on.
believe they're reporting from the Twitter files? What are you saying?
Let's stop screaming. Let's try to understand each other and have because we're getting a little bit crazy. We're getting a little
Real quick,
rambunctious.
just so we're on the same
Let's
page.
get a little civil.
How many people up here actually read the actual tweets, not just the headline?
Thank you, Matt Taibbi.
So we got two people.
Okay, bye. You got a special guest joining us. But I just want to ask you a question.
Stephen requested
They told
to get
me-
Alex on tonight, so I thought.
They told me to get here at 8 o'clock. I didn't even go on stage today. So I'm only 30 seconds late. Sorry.
Alex, do you think that what was the exact question? Do you think that there's things that should be censored online, Alex? I guess, how do you want to ask it, Stephen? How would you ask Alex where we're at right now?
I'm not even sure what I would ask Alex right now.
I would just go back to 5 years ago where violent threats, specifically calling for violence, which is illegal already, and child porn and stuff like that, and people's hacked personal information. Those things are illegal. Things that are illegal, not our free speech. It's really simple.
Do you think that there are things where it's like it's legal but unethical that should be pulled down?
No, I mean, I think it should be the Wild Wild West. That's what America and freedom is. And once you open the Pandora's box, everybody is going to say this is evil. Another group's going to say that's evil. Conservatives are going to say ban this. Liberals are going to say ban that. This group's going to say ban this. And then the special interests banning what they don't like. No, that's not what I want. I'm a big enough adult that I want to see everything. People say, well, then don't let the kids see it. Ban TikTok. No, don't let your kids on TikTok be their parent.
What is your, okay, so I'm curious, what is your enforcement mechanism? You want to go to Twitter and you want to say you're not allowed to deplatform certain speech or ban certain actors. What do you want to do to keep them from doing that? Do you want to make it illegal for you to ban people that you disagree with, that do hate speech? Like, what does the enforcement mechanism look like there?
Well, hate speech is really just a modern corporate name. I mean, when the media, when U.S. senators call for nuclear war with Russia, to me that's hate speech. But they still have a right to say that and be crazy people calling for World War III. So one person's hate speech is somebody else's love speech. So as long as somebody isn't saying, go shoot this up or go attack this group, let the KKK, who are a bunch of idiots, or let the new Black Panther Party, they're basically a black KKK group, let them sound like idiots off in their own little echo chamber. We know what they're saying. We know what they're doing. We're watching them in case they're about to get violent. Everybody knows in all the studies, you suppress speech, it puts stuff underground. You want it, the old American idea that was really the vanguard, that was the Renaissance, we call it old now, but really it's the new thinking that we forgot about and went back to the old thinking of tyranny, is to let everything out there and believe in the public to choose what makes sense. And in that world, whether it's the new Black Panther Party or the KKK, we're going to reject those idiots and we're going to embrace a civilization.
And you do radicalize more people by censoring speech, and you put them off into farther corners of the internet where they become more radicalized. And that's why a more honest, transparent conversation and dialogue where we're able to have actual clarity on the issues and actually fix the wrongs and actually discuss the problems actually helps fix the larger issues that we're dealing with, rather than
what is the
censoring
enforcement mechanism? How do you keep
So
Twitter from banning people you don't want banned? What do you think should be done?
I think Minds is doing a great job. I think the way that Minds conducts itself,
are we talking about what to do about
I think the way that
you're asking how do we do that? I mean, I think as a population, we have big corporations, we have think tanks, we have so-called fact-checking groups pressuring Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Google and all its subsidiaries to censor. And I think as a population, we reject and we boycott and we stand against censors and we promote the platforms that are open and free. And again, just 5-10 years ago, if a conservative got censored, the left was against it. If the left got censored, the right was against it. We have to go back to being unified and saying our speech is king, our right to see and watch and listen to what we want is paramount, because you're not censoring Alex Jones, or you're not censoring Luke Rudowski, or you're not censoring Jack Posobiec, or you're not censoring Tucker Carlson, or Naomi Wolf, or whoever it is. When you censor them, you're censoring our ability to represent.
But you're also censoring anyone else who might speak up. So that's a big thing too. I mean, a liberal value, a very classical liberal value, was that even if you disagree with someone's speech, you'll defend their right to express themselves. And that's a value that we need as Americans, and that's a value that we need online.
Exactly. When the liberals and the Jewish law firms used to support the KKK marching, I mean those liberal law firms...
There was a murder she wrote about that.
Absolutely. They didn't support the idiot KKK, but they said, we got to let these morons march or we lose all our rights, which was true.
You know, and it's true now on Twitter.
It is.
I think sometimes there's a responsibility for the authority to crack down if like child porn goes up. Like the admin has to take that offline. That means some central authority needs to snag that.
Well, it's illegal.
Exactly. And spam, it's not illegal, but it's unethical. So some central authority's got to crack it. But
what central authority when the FBI has been uploading a lot of the content as well, and they've been running international trafficking operations like with Epstein for over 30 plus years? How do you trust those same people to actually monitor?
Yeah, Luke Rudowski's right. How do we have the FBI that protected Epstein now being the policeman of child porn? I mean, I really think it's all up to us.
Yeah, I think it doesn't scale. That's what I was going to say. Is the central authority crackdown method doesn't scale to the masses like Twitter because it's too big for one guy to take control, whether that's the government or the head of state. So I think you need to decentralize the authority somehow as the system grows. And if that can be written into the system, the larger it gets, the wider the net of judges that can make the decision in aggregation.
Well, remember Elon Musk, like last week, that viral BBC clip, and he goes, okay, give me one example of what you're saying. He goes, well, it's a little bit mean or it's a little bit sexist. And he said, well, how do you define what a little bit is? Soon everything is banned except what you want to be heard. I mean, it's impossible. And here's the thing. We all know this. You all know this. I remember Joe Rogan in like 2000 in Houston, and I'm watching him at a packed comedy club, and he said, mark my words, within 10 years, Hollywood and corporate media are going to be dead because on the internet, there's so many voices, so many choices, it can never compete with that level of Wild West freedom. And if you go back to 2010 and the numbers, that's really when corporate media died. That's really when Hollywood died. It's got endless funding and backers, but it's a zombie organization. It's already gone. So any attempt to bring in AI, any attempt to suppress us, any attempt to shut down their competition is like a ghost dance. They're fighting a war they've already lost. So let's understand that. No amount of AI, no amount of BS is going to stop us because AI is just plagiarism of everything we already made. So we program the AI ourselves. So when the viewers and listeners of this show realize you're not the tail, you're the dog, and when you produce culture, you speak up, that's your defense mechanism to make sure you program the system.
Steven, do you think Alex should be let back on Twitter?
I don't want to be let back on Twitter. I like being the black sheep.
What was his specific ban for? Was it for the... Yeah, Tom.
You know, that's a very important point you brought up. I was not banned for the thing everybody hears about me for. I was banned for criticizing Oliver Darcy, the mini-me Brian Stelter. And it was actually Tim Pool, who was on with Joe Rogan and the head of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, and...
Vijay Gotti.
Yes. And they said he beat up a child on TV, and he was mean to a journalist, Oliver Darcy. And he called for using battle weapons against Antifa. None of that ever happened. They showed some random dude on ABC News when a kid's hitting him, and he in Missouri, and the guy looks a little like me, and another fat dude with a beard. He hits him. He falls down. That's not me. That was talking about deep fake. It wasn't even a fake video. It wasn't me. And then I saw Oliver Darcy. He was everywhere getting me banned. I was still on Twitter. And I said, how dare you get me banned everywhere, man? You're a jerk. The video's out there still. It's banned on Twitter. And then the other thing was... yeah, I'm Bill Hicks. No, that's because they got to be on Bill Hicks. But the third thing was Antifa had gone to Tucker Carlson's house and broken the door down, was threatening his wife. And I said, I don't ever want to be violent. and never physically start an altercation. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi says, the force is for defense, never attack. But I said, I've got an instant access safe in my bedroom with a battle rifle, a shotgun, and a handgun. And if Antifa attacks my house, is burning my house down trying to shoot me, I'm going to go out and defend myself. So I said, never attack Antifa, but defend yourself. Well, they never showed the clip whenever, all the shows put it on as a national news story. They just said, Jones called for killing leftists with battle rifles. A $1 million challenge. Where did I say kill leftists with battle rifles? Never happened. Where did I beat up an 8-year-old in Missouri? Never happened. So that's all they've got. And then we've now learned, this is what I mean, it's very interesting. Very
Said the exact thing, huh?
They introduced in court with my $1.5 billion judgment against me, defaulted by the judge, I'm allowed to defend myself, already guilty. They entered in court 24 minutes of video, most of it from 9 years ago, of stuff that was edited clips out of context. I mean, just saying the internet says this, what's going on? That turns into I'm pissing on people's graves, I'm doing all these things I never did. And when they sued me and didn't get the evidence, they defaulted me and then said the new model. And they're now doing that with Fox News and the Dominion lawsuit. And if you don't like Fox News, the judge says you're not giving me the right evidence, I'm going to default you. So you don't get a trial, you're guilty now. A jury decides how guilty you are. That's the weaponization of the judiciary. So then, when Hillary lost and Trump was about to win, they had a PR firm. They've now bragged about it. I didn't know this live the cases. They hired a PR firm that does the UN PR. It's like the second biggest PR firm in the U.S. to run all these national stories everywhere about Jones is attacking people. He's peeing on graves. He's going after people. I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. It's like Joe Rogan when they go, he said the N-word. He's like, stop saying it because they edited it all together. And I kind of did say some of that, but not most of this. And I didn't know what was going on. And then they defaulted me. Then they did that. Then they wanted $2 trillion. Oh, you only get $1.5 billion. I don't have $5 million. So I learned how the whole thing was not about me. It was about demonize free speech, demonize the populace. And when people don't stand up for Alex Jones, then all the dominoes fall. So I don't feel sorry for myself. I feel like I'm caught up in a really historical point. I don't have the incredible organization and focus and purity of Julian Assange, who I find no sin with, who I think did basically a perfect job. If he's free Julian Assange. He's a great guy. 8-9 years in solitary confinement, almost dead. So anytime I feel sorry for myself, I made a lot of mistakes, would go crazy on air and get drunk on air and take mushrooms on air. And I'm like, God, I didn't say some crazy stuff. It was not done to be mean. I look back on all that. I just say, I'm lucky this machine only did this to me. Didn't use CIA sex operatives, didn't set me up, and didn't literally put me in a solitary confinement cell for 9 years. So I'm not a victim. Julian Assange is, and he's who we should be getting out of jail. And that's one of Trump's biggest faults is he told Julian Assange in 2016, he said, Julian, if you've got the evidence of Hillary, I want you to release it now. And then he releases it and they throw him out of the prison. So at the end of the day, fuck Donald Trump for that. You know what I mean?
What I understand about the Twitter banning of you, Alex, is that you got banned for one reason, which was the stuff you were talking about. And then now Elon just doesn't want to let you on because he thinks that you were mean about the kids with the Sandy Hook crash.
No, I agree with Elon Musk. I should not be let back on Twitter.
You really think?
No, I'm dead serious.
But I don't like that one guy can have arbitrary authority. Like, I just feel like I don't like the way he's...
Well, no, what you're saying is totally true, but let me explain the 3D chess. No, I'm being dead serious. Elon says, I will not arbitrarily ban people. I will follow the law and the rules. Then he says, Alex Jones attacks dead kids, and Jesus said, if you do that, you should tie a millstone around your neck and be thrown in the ocean. So he's being hypocritical on his statement of him not making personal decisions. What he said there was a lie. But let's explain. It's a battery. When they ran tens of thousands, and that's conservative, of articles, thousands of national newscasts about what they said I did to kids that I didn't do. People don't know who Anna Blands is. They think I killed her. Okay? I mean, literally, you think that name, I won't even say the name, they think me. So they've charged up this giant battery against free speech that's Alex Jones. He's freeing all the captives. He's doing great things at Twitter, changing the whole paradigm. I have to only salute him. If I was Elon Musk, I wouldn't go as far as to be thrown in the ocean with a millstone around my neck, but that's a little too far. I shouldn't be killed. Please don't call people to kill me. But I understand that if he did that, they would have been able to shut down Twitter, overthrow what he did, and stop the revolution. So when they said, everybody kept going, free him, free him, free him, he goes, no, he's the sacrificial lamb. So it's almost like the Dark Knight. I get it. Because of all that demonization and that investment that I'm the devil, he goes, great, everybody else is free but him. We're going to crucify him. I compare myself to Christ. But I'm saying, I get it. And so Elon Musk, never unban me. I love being the black sheep, but I get it. Free everybody else and just say, hey, I freed all them, but I kept that son of a bitch locked up. If everybody else is free, we're going to win. And I think if he'd have done that, they'd have taken over Twitter. So Elon Musk made the right move.
Destiny, wait. Hold on, Ian. So Destiny, reinstate Alex or no?
Should he unban Alex or no?
Yes.
The reason why I asked is I don't know what he was originally banned for. That's what I'm curious. I don't know why Elon Musk hasn't unbanned you. Well, I don't know.
No, listen, he thinks it was for that shooting in Connecticut. But I'm telling you, these guys are smart news guys. Tell them, look, it was for the things I said.
Here's my question. Because I know we have a lot of Elon fans up here. Do you think that Elon Musk is running Twitter to try to make money, or do you think he has a principled adherence to freedom of speech?
I think Elon Musk is really smart. I'm really impressed. I get more impressed every day. He knows money is a symbol of energy, like gas in your gas tank. You don't worship the gas tank, but you worship the sunrises in the forest and the blue skies and the sunsets you see when you're in your car or when you pick your kids up at school. So I worship that mobility. And so to him, he wants it to be successful so he can do SpaceX and all the other amazing things he's doing. And so it's both. It's not exclusive to one. You want to be successful with money so you have the freedom. But definitely, he's hitting on all cylinders now where he said something everybody should agree with. Everybody knows that the majority of people have agreed now, and I think they're right, the circumcision is wrong. No, seriously, let me just say this. Your newborn son does not have a say whether part of his pecker is going to be cut off, okay? Now, look, I'm circumcised, and I remember my son is 20 years old. And I remember the female doctor came to me and she said, do you really want to do this? And she said, we'll do it, but we don't agree with it. He should make the choice. And just out of tradition, I said, cut the end of his dick off. Now, that was wrong. That was wrong. But the point is, I'm being honest about what I did. In hindsight, callers called me over the years and said, this is wrong. Okay, we know in some of the crazier Islamic countries, they cut the clitoris off little girls. I think we agree that's wrong, right? Does a little girl, okay, but a 5-year-old or 10-year-old kid does not have the ability to make a decision whether they want to be sterilized. It's the same thing. And so Elon Musk came out Friday and said, anybody that sterilizes or cuts the testicles or breast off a girl or boy before they're 17 goes to prison. When you're 17, 18, you want to have that, you want to be something else, it's just like a breast job. You want to be somebody else, more power to you, okay? You want to have horns put on your head. But that's what Elon came out on that Friday, and I'm full Elon now, because that is the transhumanist system, is against to accept that against children. And once we accept that against children, look, circumcision is wrong, but let's cut their whole thing off. Come on, guys. That's what I'm trying to say here, is when Elon passed that third rail and did that, I'm fully behind what he's doing.
What do you think of the Missouri law, the new Missouri law that says even adults have to wait 18 months?
It's 3 years.
Is it 3 years? 3 years for medical, that adults have to wait for medical intervention.
No, I don't think adults should have to. I'm against that law.
You're against that law?
No, I mean, listen, I don't
There's people who went through transition and then came out the other side who said, as adults, who said this would have really saved me and I would not be missing my dick right now.
No, I understand. They got brainwashed.
Okay.
And they got put into that. And so they want a waiting period. But it becomes the other danger if, as an adult, you're
Here
18,
comes the transition.
people your family should protect. I mean, I see both
What
arguments.
about like a waiting period for adult women who determine they don't want to have children and they want to have hysterectomies? Because it's very difficult for adult women to get a hysterectomy voluntarily.
No, I think a woman. Listen, I don't like assisted suicide. I don't like suicide, but I agree with your right to kill yourself. I don't want the government.
The government's help. Because
what I'm saying is, I don't want the government to pay for it. I don't want the government to push it. I don't want the government involved in it. But if you want to go back on your back of your house and blow your head off, that's your business. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. If a woman, or maybe a woman has her whole family has breast cancer, she says, I don't want to die cancer. No, I think as adults, we should be able to do anything we want to ourselves as long as the state doesn't pay for it, meaning I pay for it. At the end of the day, I'm a libertarian when it comes to personal issues, but I think you really have to come of age. I think that's 17 or 18. You can't join the military. You can't buy guns. You can't buy liquor, because everybody knows we do dumb shit when we're kids. We need people to protect us. Once you're an adult, good decisions, bad decisions, I think you should be able to make them.
I've got a theory about how to ethically deal with this Alex Jones ban on Twitter. So what would happen is, I like your 3D chess analogy. If Elon were to unban you, he would basically absorb all the hatred that people have on you right now into him. And that would be too much for him, and it could destroy the platform. But if the community provided enough pressure, and there were enough people that forced him to do it, and it gave him essentially no choice because there was such a loud noise, the hatred would absolve into the community, and it would be diffused among many, many, many people to the point of confusion where it wouldn't really affect anything.
Well, I'm kind of curious for you guys, because I asked earlier, do you think that Elon is principally concerned with freedom of speech or making money? And we kind of got an answer of both, but I think at some point you have to choose between one or the other. And recently you had Elon trying to shut down, or at least put a warning to, Substack links. I believe Taibbi and I think other journalists completely left Twitter, completely over it, and now they exclusively post on Substack. So how do you feel about Elon's decision to, I guess, try to inhibit people from visiting competitor websites?
Is that a question for me?
Or anybody, yeah.
Go ahead, I've been hogging the time here. I mean, I'll just say briefly, Substack was basically powered by Twitter. I love Substack. And I think that what Elon is doing is not about a free speech issue, but that they're a Twitter competitor, and that Twitter is barely basically hanging on this revolution. So I think by him blocking that, he's doing something to save the platform. That doesn't mean I agree with it. I don't think it's being done as an anti-free speech movement. It's being done kind of like Yahoo was blocking YouTube when it first launched, 16, 17, 18 years ago.
This is anti-freedom of speech to protect
well,
your
but
pockets,
he also said that he wasn't actually blocking. If you looked at the links, there was a warning.
Same thing with the New York Post story for Hunter Biden initially too, though, right? There was a warning you clicked off.
that was pulled.
No.
I'm not defending the warning labels on the Substack links, but I'm saying that it was a warning label. And in terms of if Musk is defending free speech on the platform or trying to make money, he won't be able to defend free speech if the platform doesn't make any money.
So now violations of freedom of speech are okay as long as it protects the pocket of the owner so they continue to run.
No. I would have been clear.
I just clarified what the thing was that happened, and then said that I think he's defending free speech and trying to make money so he can continue to.
Sure. What if he says that I think we should?
But also, what Substack did was, weren't they like appropriating a bunch of the code and cloning?
They created a Twitter clone.
Yeah, they were cloning the community notes thing.
Hey, Dustin, is Elon in the room with us now? He's not. We're not here to make excuses for Elon. I think the Substack thing has two different sides.
What is he even on about?
No, we of course are. But you're directing questions like we're his spokespersons. We're not.
Well, you were also eager to defend him a little bit ago, so I was just curious.
No. I have meant to address this because it just broke like 4 or 5 days ago. I'm trying to analyze it. I am not his apologist. In fact, the guy's banned me and said that I need to be murdered. But I got his PR because he's trying to counter what they were trying to use me against him. What I'm saying is, that's a corporate decision, and it is censorship against a competitor that's using their technology. I was simply saying I think that's wrong. There's a lot of great Substack people, and he should stop it, and I believe he's created the Streisand effect. But the CIA and the Justice Department and these combines with the deep state working with all the big tech to censor everybody, that's the big threat, and Elon has broken away and is doing his own thing. So I don't agree with him, but he gets a little bit, not even of a grace period, but just a little bit of a time to see what he's going to do because he's broken with that. That's what I'm saying. Because I think he shouldn't have done that to Substack. I think they jumped the gun. I think that it's an issue. They're threatened by Substack. And, quite frankly, I hope Substack becomes bigger than Twitter. I hope there's 10 Twitters. That's all I'm saying.
So what we learned when Twitter open sourced their algorithm from the Substack stuff was that it actually isn't the production live algorithm because there was no Substack reference in GitHub. So they have some sort of link blacklist somewhere, which we don't know about. And they did say that we haven't seen all of the algorithm yet. And what we also learned from the algorithm is that all links are punished on Twitter. And actually, Facebook does this too. They all do it. They basically demote links because it pushes people off to other websites, which is stupid. And he shouldn't be intimidated by that. I mean, we saw just a few weeks after the acquisition was over that Twitter rolled out a policy which they rescinded, which was to block Facebook and Instagram and even Nostr, which is the decentralized protocol that we're using.
Yeah, that's it. So they've all done this to each other before.
Yeah, YouTube does this routinely. Like you can't when you outlink in the description on your YouTube channel, they demote your video in the algorithm. So why are we discussing and talking about Twitter when all these other social media platforms are also engaged in this? And I think if we're talking about Twitter, let's talk about YouTube doing it as well because I think they deserve criticism as well.
It's not about not criticizing Elon. It's not about not criticizing Elon. But what Luke just said is true. We're all focused on Twitter because they release the files. The other big tech does it even worse and more sophisticated. And I think that's what Luke's saying. But I think your question's reasonable.
Facebook ran psychological studies seeing how they can manipulate people's emotions through the algorithm, trying to make them outraged, trying to make them sad, trying to make them feel happy. They were able to do psychological studies. The things that Facebook does, they know when you're about to take a shit. All right, these motherfuckers are up your fucking ass with so much private metadata that we can't even imagine, we can't even fathom. And I think when we criticize social media, yes, let's criticize Twitter. Twitter could do better, but I think there's a bigger elephant in the room, and that's all the collusion and all the actions that big tech has been acting on, particularly from one side of the aisle, and that side is the establishment.
It's a big globalist governmental combines controlling all of big tech, and then Twitter breaks away and we go, Elon, you're exposing the censorship, but then you're protecting your platform, which I'm not even agreeing with that. I'm just saying that's a different animal what he's doing.
Just to have like a basic tech conversation, are we like opposed to tailored algorithms? Is this a bad thing, do we think, or?
Absolutely not. Obviously, individuals get to choose. I think at the end of the day, individuals should be able to choose, but private companies get to choose whatever algorithms they want. But when they're politically motivated, when they create echo chambers, when they create conversations,
when they block other algorithms, I think it should all be open and free.
Yeah, when they radicalize individuals that only hear their voice and not opposing viewpoints, and there's no actual logical debate, and you only hear one side talking shit about the other side and becoming more emotional and more enraged.
Sure, so
I think there deserves to be a discussion about our ability to what we're curated and what we want to see, because at the end of the day, what we subscribe is what we should see.
And by the way, what Luke just said is the answer to everything. Go back to YouTube and Google and all of it. It's a parent company 20 years ago. They on purpose put us in groups and then put the most radical in there to push those groups to divide us and make us a new country. And I was part of that. I didn't know it was being used, but they were pushing me because they could take out of context a few things they liked that were radical or crazy. And so, but I didn't do it on purpose. So exactly what Luke just said. You can't ban algorithms, you can't ban that, but we should be aware of it. But absolutely, they set up the algorithm that made the left wing so crazy, that made the right wing so crazy, that turned this country into what we are.
Well, also, it's the algorithm on TikTok and Tumblr and all of these other things that contribute to the social contagion of trans among kids and teens. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, so San Francisco, 40% of the kids are trans or whatever?
No, I don't think that's true. So
I think it's something like that.
Well, 40% of Republican discourse might be about trans people, but I don't think 40% of kids are trans.
No, there are school districts where 40% of the kids say they are not.
There was a YouGov poll where Republicans think that 40% of the population is trans. I think that's what we're thinking of right now.
No, there are some school. I'll look it up. There are some school districts where 40% of the kids, it's not trans. They think they're of the 100, 200, whatever it is things.
I mean, there was also the story that spread like wildfire that kids were getting kitty litter boxes in their school that came from like a Joe Rogan episode.
That was
fake as well.
Fake story.
Completely fake.
But why has there been a 4,000% increase in girls identifying as trans?
Yeah, there's no doubt this is. Are you denying that if you turn mainstream television on, you're just hammered? Like everybody hates a Coca-Cola ad or a Chevy ad or whatever you're being hammered with. You look at any mainstream culture, it's trans. I mean, are we denying that?
I don't even know what we're talking about right now. Are we moving to trans issues now? I thought we were talking about social media and how to like moderate social media. Now we're talking about algorithms. I think this is important, okay? Because I notice that when these panels happen, you guys never actually say anything. We move from crazy topic to crazy topic to crazy topic. I think there's a really fascinating and interesting discussion that can happen about algorithms. So, for instance, you guys earlier being critical that algorithms radicalize people. Well, is it the job of a social media platform to put content in front of you that you might not want to watch? If somebody watches a video by the Young Turks, are you saying that the next video that should be recommended should be like a Tucker Carlson video? Like, you guys throw a lot of criticisms out about these companies.
No,
you guys throw a lot of criticisms out about these companies, but at the end of the day, you're not really like saying anything. And we just move from like sensationalist topic to sensationalist topic. No, talking about 40% of the population is trans.
But this is not that hard to understand. So don't make it sound like we're talking crazy here. This is pretty simple. If I, as the consumer, have an easier access to certain types of content because that content aligns with the political philosophies of the executive team of that platform, that's a problem. That is what I'm trying to say. So I do not have a fundamental issue with algorithms. For example, I think that as long as the consumer can choose to turn on or off those algorithms, that's okay. The problem is when I have recommended content based on political philosophy that I did not choose because the things that I agree with are being purposely suppressed. That's what I have a problem.
I understand what you're saying, but the issue is that for a long time, I don't even know if it does. They gave consumers an option. Do you want the tailored feed or do you want the chronological one? I believe when Elon bought Twitter, he brought back the chronological one. Nobody wants that. Consumers don't want the ability to look. That's great if there's a few people.
How do you know that? What's the data proving that? What data is proving that? Because that was just rolled out, right? So how do we know that's true? Because I just want to ask you if you could clarify. How do we know people don't want that? Because I personally use it. I like it, and I haven't seen any data released highlighting that argument.
I mean, the data is that every company is moving in this direction. Because
every company is at one thing. You can talk about algorithms all day, but then there was the pre-programmed lie with government corporate disinformation on every channel the last 3 years. What I don't want, algorithms are one thing, but I don't want a force-fed corporate big lie, put in all the tops of the feeds. That's the algorithm I don't want. It's not even an algorithm. It's we're going to force this down your throat.
I'm going to answer your question, Stephen. I think it's a good one. I think that private companies, if they spin up a social network, have the right to show you whatever algorithm they want. If they want to show you dog dicks all day, even when you search for women, even when you search for cartoons, they show you dog dicks. It's their company. They can do whatever they want. But when a company gets to the size of acting in the commons, it takes on another meaning. And then the code, at that point, I think they can still show you whatever they want, but that code needs to be free so I can spin up my own version of the site. And if people hate their algorithm, they're going to start using my awesome technology that's now publicly available. And then it'll become a...
I agree. By the way, I love how your code matches his hair.
Thank you so much. It'll become a marketplace of terms of service and a marketplace of algorithms instead of a marketplace of who owns the code.
The sketchy thing that platforms do, specifically big tech, is they change the defaults. So people are put into the algorithms when, and what that does, which hurts creators, is that it takes away people's organic reach. So when they make the algorithms default, that's when creator reach goes down drastically. You spend 10 years on Facebook to get 100,000 followers, and then suddenly you're only getting 3% reach because they decided to change the default.
And then the corporate media has an unfair advantage in that situation, which is absolutely unfair to independent media creators, which needs to be called out. It's all because of their algorithm. And when it comes to the algorithm, if it was free-flowing, if people were allowed to see what they wanted to see, I can make that understanding that, hey, maybe we could have a radicalization discussion then. But when it's curated, when it's manipulated, when we know that they could even control our emotions to the point of fine-tuning this, they could also run many kind of different operations, many different tie-ups.
I'm not a tech guy, but that's why every few days I delete my history just so I get the new stuff. Like, I'm not a tech guy. Is that what you do? You delete the history, and then you get the new
It's a little
stuff?
bit more sophisticated than that, but...
What about the guy?
Well, when I delete the history, I suddenly get new feeds. I
do that on YouPorn.
You guys give it up for our panel and our special surprise guest, Mr. Alex Jones.
Jadi apa?
That's amazing. I have to jump in here because we have so many people excited to talk to you guys and ask questions. We have like at least 12 people,
Q&A.
maybe a baker's dozen of people in line. So you guys be very concise, no life stories, just get to your questions so we can try and get everybody, and speak closer to the microphone than you think you have to.
You got it. Okay. So going back to the beginning of the conversation, since it's been proven that foreign nations like Russia use Twitter and other social media to push disinformation, use bots, stuff like that, is the U.S. government not allowed to even request hey, we found these things that we think might be bots? Is that going too far, or should they just allow all of that to happen and potentially undermine democracy?
There was a situation where a bunch of bots were identified by a third party, and it turned out that those bots were mostly just American citizens. So I think there's a concern in that identification process that it has to actually be accurate, and you can't just base it on somebody's biases. But I'd love to hear what other people think about that.
You're asking if it's ethical for the government to go in and ban what they consider bots on a social network? Is that a question?
Specifically, foreign interference.
Again, the government made recommendations to social media platforms. So, for instance, in the Twitter files, the government made huge recommendations to Twitter where they say, we think that these accounts are foreign disinformation. I think because they said they followed 2 or more Chinese diplomats, but they had no tweets. And then Twitter overviewed a lot of these accounts and said, we don't agree, and they didn't ban them. That would be an example of a request that the government might make, or making something aware of a tech company, to a tech company.
Maybe I think the word foreign might be a little vague. It might
foreign as in not American, not of this country.
Yeah, because if I'm in Ohio but I'm chatting with someone in the UK, am I all of a sudden a foreign compliant? So. I don't know. I don't like the government. I don't like some central authority shutting down what they don't like and using man, this is a fucking challenging environment. I can't answer this on my own.
Do you know what's interesting is I brought this to talk about because I wanted to bring Tolstoy to talk about censorship, and Tolstoy talked about how when he was writing this book. What is art? Because I'm a dork. Anyway, when he was writing this book, the publisher came to him and said, can we just change this a little bit? And can we just change that a little bit? And then it went to the government censorship office and all of this. And he says that eventually a book appeared under his name containing thoughts attributed to him which are not mine. And I think that that's something that we have to be concerned about when we have an environment of censorship and when we have a culture that encourages self-censorship. Because as soon as you have any kind of censorship higher up, it trickles down and people start censoring themselves. And self-censorship is censorship, and we should look out for that and not let it happen.
Agreed.
Yeah, the next one. We're going to jump in for the next
keep
question.
Going.
I have a quote-unquote conservative family member in the federal judiciary to whom I have posed the argument of publisher versus platform. They have argued that forcing the speech on these corporations is the limitation of the corporation's speech. How do we convince the neocon conservatives that the corporations are not working in the best interests of the population and the monopolies held by these corporations are infringing on the personal liberties, not allowing competition, especially when it is these people who are being tasked with protecting those liberties? Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's a great question. The neocons want total power. They follow Professor Strauss. So they basically love Hitler. So they know they're running over us. They're bad people. They want control. And so, yeah, we keep thinking the system wants to work with us. They want to be nice. They're trying to be liberal. No, the globalists are fascists that hide behind a liberal veil, folks. And they want total control. Free speech is the answer to them.
One way you can look at it is corporate free speech is not about who they let say what, because they can control that legally. It's about the code they use. Their speech is their code. It's for these networks, social networks that we're talking about. That's the way they're communicating with us. So that should be free. And if that's free, then I think the problem solves itself.
Right for it.
Go for it. Okay.
Exactly. Freedom is the answer. It will dispel, it will discredit. The billions of people online will see the lie. We will deal with it. We don't need some overlord doing it. That always goes wrong.
I'm going to try to touch on three things real quick. Sorry, I've had a couple drinks. So with the Hunter Biden laptop situation, I am far less concerned about the dick pics and more concerned about the 10% for the big guy, and then Tony Bobulinski coming out and saying that Joe Biden is the big guy. But more concerning for that is the fact that I don't think that same level of censorship would have been applied if it had been Donald Trump's kid doing the same things.
Yep.
When it comes to algorithms. I'm very wary of algorithms, but I think the best way to go forward is sort of an informed consent model. Like if I'm going to be subject to an algorithm, I think I should at least know that I'm being fed a certain feed. You know, like whether I'm being shown more right-wing content because I'm watching right-wing stuff, or if I'm being shown more left-wing content. Either way, I think the company should be able to do what they want. I was wondering what you guys felt about that as far as trying to balance.
Like you think they should be transparent in telling you what it is that the algorithm is that it's feeding you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah.
Or Michael, go ahead.
I was thinking about TV commercials, and if they had to say every 3 hours we're going to show you a gummy bear commercial, they don't have to tell us that. They just feed us this subliminal thing at the impulses that they want. No one's ever raised a.
There was a rule, though. There used to be this rule on network television that you had to give equal time to both political candidates.
The fairness doctrine.
Yeah, we used to have that.
Well, here's the deal, folks. We can sit here and debate all this, and I think it's kind of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. I already knew this because when Obama left office, he was just a puppet of the deep state. They put $2 billion into the Countering Foreign Disinformation and Propaganda Act, and then suddenly, months later, they're having congressional hearings in the Defense Department in the House Armed Services Committee saying, Alex Jones is a Russian agent. We're battling him right now with the CIA. I'm like watching C-SPAN going, wow, I know he's a Russian agent. Plus, less the CIA's after me. So they've done all this, and now they've got all these dashboards and think tanks and fact checkers and groups that are attacking and censoring and doing this. That needs to stop. Then we can debate the algorithms and free speech all day long. We have, like, Darth Vader literally bombing the living snot out of us. And so we debate all the little nuts and bolts of it. The point is you shouldn't have corporations with big government and think tanks and universities censoring people and then calling it liberal. And again, I love real liberals that love freedom and happiness and all that. These are not liberals. These are the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us of. These are the most cold-blooded corporations in the world that wrap themselves in Black Lives Matter. It's all crap.
I kind of want to hear what Michael Seifert had to say, because I think we're about to explode some knowledge on it.
Well, I don't know about that, but I will say that to the gentleman's point who asked that question, it's why I like to harp on that New York Post story so much. I think it was you, right? Yeah, thank you for the question. And the comment on the New York Post story. It's a huge deal, and if you're just trying to write it off by saying it was just about Hunter Biden's dick pics, it's completely disingenuous. The reality is, if a government can get in bed with a corporate entity to purposely thwart the likelihood of their opposing candidate winning the election, that's a very serious problem. And so it's so much more about the business dealings. And then to elaborate on the point even further, like the big issue here, too, is that these corporate entities have become hijacked by lobbyists and by their dealings with a government that'll give special favors if they align with them politically. Like we got ours started with our company.
Give me some examples.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'd be really happy to. I was about to. Thank you.
Did you watch the congressional hearings last month?
Yeah.
I want to know for Twitter. What were the special favors given to Twitter? For the Hunter Biden story. What are the special favors given to Twitter?
What do you mean special
Paid them
favors?
like $6 million.
You just said that there are special favors given to corporations for interacting or cooperating.
Yeah, I was about to give you an example.
Okay, let's hear
During COVID, the businesses that were willing to puppet the messages of the regime were deemed essential, even though they had the same attributes and products and services offered as non-essential businesses because they might have disagreed with the regime's political views.
And they got major corporate
funding. That is a
funding.
perfect example of what happens when the
what does that
government...
have to do with Twitter?
Advertising.
The question
Bill
moves
Gates.
into corporate entities in general,
Okay, so it's
getting
just more
involved in
random
political.
shit over
There
random
was
shit.
also, wasn't there in the Twitter files?
You're not
wasn't
arguing
there
the point. You're just saying it's random shit when you
No,
can't
the
defend
reason
it.
why it's random shit is because all you guys are doing are bringing up random fucking conspiracies.
No, man.
Conspiracy.
$5 million
Rather
during
than
that.
staying on one topic and talking about one thing and focusing on an actual conversation, it's
is
like, here's the deep state,
this is like
here's
the-
essential businesses, and here's trans.
You said
and that's
give
like the
us,
whole fucking panel.
you
Like, what are
said
you talking
give us
about?
one example,
Hey,
and he just kicked your ass with examples.
And just transparently,
like
none of what I
man.
just said was conspiratorial. It was all very out in the open. Do you all remember certain businesses being called essential and others being non-essential?
That was like churches.
Pfizer spent $10 million on advertising. That's what paid for
All
it.
right, next question, next question, next question.
Do you remember how
Hold on, people here, folks, I got another
do
job
you guys
in
remember how casinos and
pizza?
liquor stores were essential and churches and schools were not? Do you guys remember that?
But I don't trust anyone to do it. That includes Gab, Truth Social, whatever. If
Ask the
protocols,
question.
like for news and social media, like Nostr or Blue Sky succeed, how might this conversation look different? What are we going to be talking about in 5 years when none of these platforms can actually intermediate news and social media?
We're going to be talking about when code says disallow all dogs, but what the code is actually doing is transposing some other value for the word dog. And so when you read the code, you're going to see that you're going to think it's doing something about dogs that it's not. So you're going to need to know the language of the sub-language of the language.
Yeah, I think that you're exactly right, because the other thing too is when you censor people, right, and you say these kinds of ideas can't be talked about. What people are going to do is they're going to continue to talk about the ideas, but using different words and different language, and then you're going to have to censor that. Like I remember very distinctly when my son was in kindergarten, I think it was, and the teacher said that you're not allowed to call anybody stupid, and so all the kids were like, okay, we won't call anybody stupid, and they started calling each other silly instead, and then the teacher tried to make them not say the word silly, and they just kept coming up with other words so that they could call each other fucking stupid. You know,
That's what's great about humans is we're not
God
going to be
envy.
suppressed. Yeah.
All right, next.
I guess this is my question.
That was
What do you consider the
meaningless.
ethical obligations of private companies like Meta for free speech and facilitating public discourse? I mean, I know initially people were talking about, oh, easy, just ban child porn, no problem, that's all we need to do, and then Meta is terrible. But I guess I'm just kind of curious, like, what in your minds did you consider also like?
But that's not what I said. I said it was great free internet we had 5-6 years ago. You ban hack material or people being doxxed. You ban child calls for violence or like open scams and criminal activity. Anything illegal is banned.
Also, you need to learn when to put down the sword. You fight as a corporation metaphorically to gain market traction, and then once you get it, you need to let it go. You need to set it down and let the market take it.
There was actually this really interesting thing that happened recently where, so there was this Trans Day of Violence that was being advocated for on Twitter, and then anybody who reported on the fact that the Trans Day of Violence was being advocated for was banned. Do you remember that? And so, or was it violence or vengeance? I think it was vengeance, not violence. Apologies.
No, vengeance, yeah.
But yeah, I remember Andy No got locked out of Twitter.
No
Marjorie
idea.
Taylor Greene got locked out of Twitter. ThePostMillennial.com. You should check us out. ThePostMillennial.com/subscribe. You should come check us out. Anyway,
But you're right. They
yeah.
didn't ban the people calling for violence.
They
They
banned the
people
journalists reporting on it and the congresswoman reporting on it. What about that? That's a tough one, right? Because, and what you had was, what's her name, the new head of Twitter Trust and Safety, talking about how
Seamless.
anyone who said Trans Day of Vengeance would be banned, even the reporting on it. And I thought that was disingenuous.
Well, I think real quick, I don't think that the issue wasn't that they were trying to ban the reporters. I think the issue was that it was exploding on Twitter, and they were just trying to get rid of like that type of speech on Twitter as quickly as they could.
Yeah,
So
it was
they
like
ended up just banning
5,000.
everybody that
It was like
reporting.
5,000 accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was an intentional, like, if you're talking about it's going to ban you, they were just trying to get it off the
So,
platform.
but
and
that's a
affect
situation where
electoral
it would have been like AI doing that. That wasn't people
probably
doing
was,
it.
yes,
So in that
yeah.
case, it would have been better to have people monitoring that system.
Well, then it's a question of how many people do you want to hire. That's the issue, is that it's really expensive to hire a lot of people to do content moderation.
I know, but still.
Another shout out to the
Necessary.
Minds jury system on this one, because I think that might be
He's,
the future of
he's
moderation.
living in
online.
utopia.
Do it up. Jump in here, so I'm going to do it. My name is Dave. I'm a crypto anarchist. Destiny, you're not going to like the premise of this question, so you can sit it out. I'd love some substantive answers. But,
Don't censor Destiny. Don't censor
I'm just
Destiny.
saying, you can sit it out. Take a breath, drink some water. So obviously, to the rest of us, government censorship is getting more and more severe. They're making laws like the new Restrict Act.
This guy.
They're just coercing the hell out of these platforms, dragging all the CEOs up to Capitol Hill and grilling them until they agree. Okay, we'll go along with the Atlanta Council. Don't shut us down. So a lot of people think that this is just going to keep getting worse. And no matter who we left, left, right, or center, the agenda continues. It got worse under Obama. It got worse under Trump. It doesn't seem to matter who's in that seat. So as content creators and as people who have built free speech platforms, moderation algorithms and banning are one level, but infrastructure providers killing apps like Parler, whether you're on, AWS or whatever, your server, your .com gets seized or shut down. Blockchains were created specifically as a fuck you to all of that, as a response to authoritarian control. So we have Bitcoin for money. We have a lot of Web3 smart contracts that can create censorship-resistant platforms that can't be shut down, no matter what laws they create. So
Excellent.
my question is, instead of
Paragraphs.
just jumping from platform to platform as content creators, as the algorithms
What
squeeze
is
you out,
even asking?
why are we not just jumping right to Web3 blockchain tech? Not only the content and the social graph, but also the servers, the compute, the storage, the domains themselves. All of this tech is available now. Why are we not building aggressively for when we inevitably face the next wave of censorship? Thank you very much.
I mean, we're doing the best we can, but it's just it's still immature a little bit. It's getting there, and I think everyone on this
I think you'd be
panel.
surprised how mature it's.
Oh, trust me. I mean,
Nostra, you're killing it.
Yeah. No, yeah. We need to decomplexify it because people just aren't willing to be inconvenienced for freedom. So baking freedom into the apps is key, but people are going to stay where they are for now.
Well, and I think part of what we have to do a better job of, because I'm very passionate about this very topic, is messaging it more in a user-friendly manner. Because I think sometimes we get really passionate and excited about the future of Web3, but like you have to go where consumers are. And on our platform, the average consumer on the platform is a 37-year-old mom with kids who's incredibly busy. She makes a majority of daily purchases in the household. So if you can get her involved and get her buying into what you're trying to build, you're going to shift the entire economy toward freedom, which is amazing. But the problem is that cohort of people are so busy. That's my wife. She doesn't have time to dive deep into the mechanics of why this is so important. So we have to actually make it accessible and friendly from a messaging perspective. I think we're way far along and very mature, actually, in the functional ability for these platforms to thrive and provide a safe outlet. What we're not mature in is how we're messaging it. And so I think we need to do a much better job of that.
And we don't need the CIA with fact checkers running everything.
This is going to be our last question. Unfortunately, we ran out of time for everyone. There will be a Q&A after the last panel.
All right, first of all, Alex, Luke, please talk more about LeBone on your shows. He is the key. Alex, I'm impressed. You dog, awesome, really good. Specifically, I want to ask Destiny. You spoke earlier about your belief that you think that the left and the right have good faith in their ideas. I posit to you, ideas are themselves possessive. They are not acting on good faith. They are acting on the faith of the ideas, which take hold of you. You act in their service, not the other way around. And so my question to you is, why do you view everything through the lens of the group, only the group, and you approach absolutely everything from that point of view only?
Can you clarify what you mean approach everything through the lens of the group? I don't know what you mean by that.
Groupthink,
Well, like if I'm speaking to an individual, I'll try to take the individual for where the individual's at. But if I'm talking about like conservatives or liberals or communists or fascists, I'm gonna have to talk about what the group thinks. It just depends on where the conversation is directed to.
Okay, but my point here is that in each and every one of those topics, those are ideas. Those are ideas that are themselves the issue, not the group. You try and focus on this narrow point
reading the
and
script,
get lost in the minutia of all of these things. You sat there and argued about, well, is Twitter really censoring people or are they a private corporation? That's not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is the idea itself. It's the ideas that need to be brought forth.
The problem is that the reason why it's important to get into the weeds and to have the very boring conversations to figure out what's actually happening is because ideally, if you're trying to make actionable citizens, if you're trying to get people that are listening to do something, and you're not just trying to sell fear or deep state or conspiracies or make money on getting people angry, you should be able to present a clear idea of like what has happened in a particular
But
thing
it's not a conspiracy.
that people can prevent in the future.
That the
So, for
government's
instance, if
censoring.
we think that Twitter has engaged in an action that we disagree with, then the goal would be to try to pressure
Interrupting
Twitter to
and
change the policy. If we think that Twitter
but
is
you talk
controlled
about
by
people
the deep
using
state,
terms.
controlled by
You
CIA
talk
and the
about
government and
people
Epstein
using
File and all
terms.
this, what you're
You use
essentially telling your
conspiracy
audience
to
is no
come
matter
out
what
in
you do,
Congress
nothing
that
you
the
say
big
makes a
corporations
difference.
and the deep
You can't do
are
anything to
censoring
change
and controlling.
anything that's going on. So,
You're just saying
so the reason why I like to focus on
conspiracy. The conspiracy's been proven.
Actually,
Big
man.
banks trying to suppress the people and create a monopoly. You keep using words like conspiracy theorist. Hey, man, people know what's going on.
The only thing you're doing with that type of speech is removing your audience from the voter pool. So, I mean, power to you if you want to talk that way.
Okay, so there were congressional hearings where big tech is suppressing election knowledge, medical knowledge, all this. It's a conspiracy theory.
So what do you want people to do about it?
He's like, you use words like conspiracy
Let's
theory.
get
Conspiracy theory.
let him talk.
I want people to be aware of.
No, not be aware. What do you want people to do about it? You've made them aware. Now, what are they supposed to do?
People.
This is the problem with your platform.
You're trying to
I'm sorry. I thought you were doing like 15 years. I thought you
well,
had
hey, if
to
my platform's so weak, why are they trying to ban it?
Yeah, go ahead. What do you
That's right.
want
What are you going to do, boy?
What do you want people to do,
I'm
Alex?
going to wreck the New World Order. That's what I'm going to do.
Yes, I
We
know.
need freedom of speech, open platforms, without government and corporate censorship, and it'll all sort itself out. That's what I'm saying. And it's not a conspiracy theory. The big, powerful corporations and governments get together to censor and control and protect themselves. And we fought hard to even get that basic truth out, and we are winning.
The problem with people talking over each other is it's like painting two different colors of makeup on your face. That you love both of the colors very much, but when you put them on your face, they turn brown. Not that brown's a bad makeup color.
What is that color blue jacket? Is that electric blue?
This is electric blue suede, Alex.
Okay, guys, we're gonna do
All right, we're doing a little swap because we're pretty much talking about the same stuff for the rest
didn't
of the
even
show.
plan on
So,
preparing.
Carrie, we're gonna swap out a couple people.
Can we have a round of applause for these guys
That's
first?
disappointing.
By the way, Destiny and
So scary.
are dating. So everybody should know that.
They're secret gay lovers. I saw them making out behind the stage. But seriously, Destiny.
He's mad because I heard him.
In all seriousness, thank you for challenging us. Thank you for giving us a very important view. And thank you for being here and engaging in a conversation. And I just want to say I appreciate it, and I want to thank you for doing so.
Here's the Destiny.
So I think Alex.
Let him hear and talk to. He's actually scared.